This is HR Service Unscripted.
I'm like, curveball.
Okay, welcome to HR Service Unscripted. We have a guest today, Marisa Sweeney, a board certified registered dietitian and founder of both Be Well Integrative Health Services and Veg Fest. She is joining us today to talk about holistic wellness, the importance of self-care, and veggies.
Yeah.
Dean's really excited to talk about the veggies.
Mhm.
We may get into that. We may have a discussion on veggies. With the Veg Fest, I thought that's interesting. So with the Veg Fest, we'll just jump into that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, one, why?
Why did I decide to do it?
Yeah.
Well, I've been vegan for maybe something around 15 years or something. I'm not even really sure anymore. But back then, I was really there was me and one other woman in town. Her name is Kendra Arnold. She actually owns a vegan store in Morristown now. But she was the only other vegan that I knew in town. And to this day, we talk about that if we didn't bump into each other on the street one day, so serendipitously, we would have never been doing this Veg Fest. But that's exactly what happened. She bumped into the street. She saw me on the street. She was like, "Oh, Marissa, I have this great idea that I thought of earlier today, and I think you're the person that I would want to do it with." There's no community around veganism at all. Like it's you versus the world really back then, and no restaurants. Like nobody knew what it was. There's no vegan products. There's nothing marked as vegan in grocery stores. It was pretty rough. It was pretty
Just
rough
reading
back then.
labels
Yeah,
constantly.
yeah. And she's just like, I kind of have like and her and I were already doing like kind of like a lot of community work and like involved in nonprofits and festivals in town. And like I think we're both kind of natural community building kind of people in that regard. And she's like, I think we should call like everybody in Morristown and see if we could put together like a festival essentially of anybody that is selling or serving anything that's vegan and we can maybe start this movement here. I was like, that sounds great. And like the both of us went home. The more I thought about it, I was just like, there's definitely not enough offerings in Morristown for us to have a Morristown fest. Like there's no way. So I got on the phone with her and she's like, yeah, I was having the same thought. I was like, maybe Morris County. And she's like, all right. And then we got off the phone, we thought about it more. And I was like, there's not even enough in Morris County for us to throw together a viable festival. So we made it the New Jersey Vegan Food Festival. And it's meant to do just that. It's really evolved into being a small business incubator for any plant-based vegan. It doesn't have to be even fully vegan, maybe people that are dabbling in it, small business. Like all of our vendors, even to this day, this is actually our 10th year of doing the Veg Fest, and since then Kendra's broken off and she's just focusing on her store. So she owns Feasty Vegan in Morristown. So the event is just I'm the 100% owner of it, and we do everything we can to have business. It's a lot of hand holding through the whole process of like getting the right permits and maybe even finding like a brick and mortar space and like get connected with a commercial kitchen. Like there's a lot of things to consider, to put it lightly, when you want to open a business. And it's not just food businesses, it's any kind of vegan lifestyle products. So it's people that do like bath and beauty kind of stuff and like even like clothing companies and stuff. And so it's a little bit of everything. And yeah, it's really exploded. We get thousands of people out every year for it. We do it actually in May in Asbury Park. I feel that creeping up on me real fast. Um, and we always do it the weekend before Memorial Day weekend in Asbury Park, and then we do it in November in Montclair. So it's fun.
That's awesome. So you did
Yeah.
that 10 years ago. And was it 15 years ago that you founded Be Well? I feel like you were just
Yeah.
like we just
So
found a bunch of businesses. That's cool.
Be Well was so I'm a dietitian and I used to work over at Holy Name Hospital like right out of school, because back then when you were a dietitian, that's just like the career that it was one of the few career options, and they just kind of funneled you into working in the clinical setting. And it was I loved working at Holy Name Hospital mostly because the people, like I really, to this day there's still a lot of people at Holy Name that I talk to a lot. And
Well,
but
Liz is from Texas and Dean is from Utah, but
oh, so they don't know
also
where that
from
is.
they don't, but it's a really good hospital, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
It's really good.
it's right off of the, well, you might not even know this. This might not be helpful, but it's like 6 miles off the George Washington Bridge, which essentially is one of the big bridges that gets you from Jersey into New York.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of like New York doctors coming over the bridge and everything. And so, but anyway, so I worked there for a while, and just the more I worked with people there, the more I realized how much I wanted to work with them a little sooner, like nutrition really has a big purpose in the preventative care space rather than you've already landed yourself in the hospital with stage 4 cancer and now we're just starting the nutrition intervention. So
Right.
so I started a private practice on the side and I was working like crazy because I was still doing that full time while I was building up my business on the side and on the weekends. So it was a lot of working around the clock, but I feel like that's the story of every small business owner. It's,
It's the passion carries you through, not
it
the
is a
time to
hundred
do it.
percent. And then that ended up getting busy enough that I was able to leave Holy Name, and that was my full-time gig. And even in that kind of setting, the more people came to me looking for a lifestyle change, the more I realized how multifaceted wellness really is. It's not just what you eat. It's what is your mental health like? Like there's some people that haven't been in an exercise setting in 20 years, maybe never. So I really wanted to bring in this team of like, to the best of my ability, like superstars in their own right, in their own particular discipline, to really provide a really research and evidence-based holistic approach, like a team approach to patient care. So that's what brought about Be Well. So Be Well started in 2012, but I've had my nutrition practice within that, I guess you could say, since 2010, maybe. I think so. So it's been about like 15, 16 years. Time flies right by. It's really
It
crazy.
really does.
Yeah.
So when I went gluten-free, I think it's 3 years ago now, people are like, "Oh, don't you miss pizza? Don't you miss muffins and stuff like that?" And I'm like, do you know what I don't miss? I don't miss not like feeling like crap all the time.
Yeah.
I am enjoying feeling well. And like, all right, yeah, the pizza smells good. Trust me, when a chocolate cake comes out of the oven, it smells delicious. But also, like, I just know that it's going to make me immediately feel bad. So
Yeah.
I feel like the effects of what I eat, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm so restrictive now due to all of my allergies and sensitivities. But I have like an immediate effect. I feel like for people who don't get that, they're almost at a disadvantage because it's like they just have to eat well for like the long-term goals rather than like, no, this is going to make me sick today.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's also, for what it's worth, it's really different from one person to person. Like your gut microbiome is more unique to you than your own fingerprints are. So to say that like gluten is going to be a problem for everybody is like, and that's across the board for all the things that are kind of demonized, like dairy, soy. Some people just won't have a problem with it, and some people have a severe problem with it, and then there's everybody in between. So, there's no one size fits all, I think, when it comes to anybody, but you're 100% right. Like when you feel like crap, that's a great motivator because
It's
like,
such a good motivator because
yeah, it
like the
really
whole
is.
day I'll be lethargic and then I can't even like get off the couch for this. I'm like, I have plans later. I can't eat this.
Yeah, I think it's why people like, maybe this is a funny example, but I think it's why people stop drinking as they get older or not nearly as much as they used because the hangovers are way worse than they ever were when you were younger, you could just bounce out of
Not worth
bed.
it. Especially
But
if you have kids that you have to like take care of the
oh
next day.
yeah, no,
No.
forget it. So yeah,
So we steered away from our questions a little bit.
sorry. Yeah.
That's okay, no, because that was totally our fault. But I definitely wanted to touch a little bit on why you think women's health is typically ignored or needs more attention.
Yeah. So, well, and I should mention that Be Well really is primarily a women's health and wellness center. And the reason why we didn't necessarily start with that, and we serve everybody for what it's worth. Like, there's plenty of men, there's plenty of everybody that comes through. But it didn't start that way. I didn't actually like give it that name of like Women's Health and Wellness Center until about 2013. Actually, what really motivated me is the National Institute of Health, which is like the big government organization that allocates all the research dollars to keep medicine and health sciences moving forward and everything. They only allocated 9.7% of their budget to women's health. That's it.
When
Um,
it's half the population. So really it
yeah,
should be half, right?
yeah, honestly, like woman is the most common gender in this country, in this world. So,
Yeah.
And granted, there is medical research of particular diagnoses that can be shared, between men and women, but there's things like menopause, polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis. These are like very women specific
Mhm.
diagnoses that we know, like in comparison to other diagnoses, nothing about. We know nothing about them. So what it turns into is, or what it has turned into, is women are experience symptoms. They go to the doctors. The doctors aren't educated on it because the research not there isn't there, and then the blame, more often than not, kind of
Mhm.
gets put back on the patient, or it gets kind of written off as like you might be making
Mhm.
this up or something like that. It's not always that extreme, but it happens a lot.
Mhm.
So
Liz is very much into data and reporting and things like that. So I'm sure if you haven't already done the research, Liz, I'm sure like her evening entertainment tonight is going to be like looking at how much data we can like extract out of that, that's the unfortunate part is like almost none, which is also ridiculous because women are typically the ones who are like, you got to get your annual checkup. We're all going to the
yeah,
dentist next week. Like we're the caretakers typically who are the ones saying like, let's get this done. But and then we still have to like fight for just this basic level of care, you know?
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's 100% right. There's actually a decent amount of research showing that within a family unit, it's usually the woman that's making health decisions for everybody involved.
Mhm. Even the other
So
adult.
even the other adult. Yeah, even the other adult. So it's just the way things have shook out. And even 10 years later in 2023, you would think that number would be any better, and it's not. It's less. It's down to 7.9%.
That's disgusting.
So, but I think there's especially like, so the millennial generation is just now really starting to use a lot of their medical providers.
Mhm.
And this is, not any knock on my dad or anything, but my dad is so he's like in his mid 70s right now, and he's of that generation that, and this is of course me generalizing, that seem to just have a blind trust to their physician. They go to their doctor, they're like, yes, you should do this. And he's like, that's exactly what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Here's your script. I'm going to take this pill because he told me to do it. And nobody's looking for any further information. And like, I think the internet has a lot to do with it. Like, there's nobody, like, most certainly in the millennial generation, that isn't Googling everything extensively before they make an appointment with anybody, and they want to be very much a part of the decisions made in their care, and they want to see this specialist and they want to see that specialist and they want this team approach. So I think like millennials are kind of pushing research in a new direction, because also the millennial generation now is starting to experience perimenopause. And I
Mhm.
think that's where a lot of this, like, it almost seems like menopause is like kind of a trendy thing. It shouldn't be trendy at all. Like it's a stage of life that every woman is going to experience at some point.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's why there's been a little bit more research dollars put towards it, because,
We're insisting.
yeah, honestly, because we're insisting. So, and it's
And
ridiculous,
there's
but that's the way
also,
it has
guess
to
what?
be.
Money to be like the capitalists are going to get wind of it and be like, oh, wait a minute, we can sell products to these people.
That's
And
another thing.
now they're coming into the part of their life where they maybe have a little bit of extra money to spend. So I hate to say it's like boils down to that, but I kind of think it does.
It does.
You said something interesting about your dad also that I think of that generation, they were so private about their medical care and any issues that they were having. And now we crowdsource everything. Everybody's always posting on Facebook, hey, my doctor wants to give me this. Is anybody taking it? Tell me what your
Totally.
experience has been.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. Like there's forums and Facebook groups for every diagnosis and condition that there
Yeah.
is. Like you're not alone with anything anymore, seemingly, or you don't have to be.
Mhm.
So,
You
yeah, it's a
mentioned something.
different time.
You mentioned something earlier that kind of ties back in that what's right for one person is not necessarily right for others because everybody's unique. But if there was one aspect of holistic well-being that you would recommend to the general population, what would that be?
There's pretty like the angle that I come from with everything is that everything has to be really heavily research and evidence based, especially with nutrition, because that's one of the big pseudoscience heavy science, things that there are out there, science worlds that there are out there. So it's like you have to come from that angle or nothing. So there are some pretty heavily research and evidence based, like empirically supported recommendations that can apply to the masses. Again, it's not going to be for everybody. There's always going to be outliers, but like some of like the bigger ones are honestly plant-based diet. And it's kind of not cool right now, as ridiculous as that sounds, with like diet trends and stuff, to be so plant-based. And I think a lot of that actually is like kind of driven by the administration that we have going on right now, where everything is very meat and protein heavy.
I was going to say, is
But
it the push for protein?
there's a big push for protein, but like again, looking at the research, like American diets have been excessive with protein. Typically, if you look at the typical American diet, for decades now, protein has never been anybody's problem for the most part. So,
Right.
and especially with all this menopause literature coming out and everything, it really pushes people towards a more plant-based diet. Like there's a lot of benefit in all these foods like soy and legumes that have been kind of demonized over the years. And so, I mean, I really think almost everybody, sorry, probably much to your chagrin, Dean, it is better to eat more vegetables.
No, that's actually a perfect segue because I was thinking about this, and I know we have a list of questions, but so it's interesting how it's changed. Mind you, I'm a tad older than the rest here. And my early college days, I was at a small school playing a little sport there, and we had a dietitian who said, "Okay, you have to eat 5, 6,000 calories a day. It's protein based. It's this. It's this." Okay, mind you, I was an offensive lineman, so that gives you an idea where all this is coming from.
Oh, well,
So you had to have a lot of
gives a little
calories
bit
and
of an
burn a lot of
explanation,
calories.
not really all of it though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So anyway, but looking at that now, I see where, like if you had a patient coming up today, when, there's always the old joke, right? How do you know a vegan?
Mm.
Right? They tell you. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've heard that a million times. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So with that though, but I have a sister-in-law who's doing that, but it's interesting because her husband is doing the, it's like the caveman diet, right? It's all the protein, this and that, and he drops weight like crazy, but he gains it back really fast as well.
Hmm.
Right.
So if you're comparing the plant-based versus that, and just if when a new client comes to you, I don't know, how do you stay neutral with them saying, okay, you can't convert people into vegan, whether you want to or not. I don't know if you will.
Right.
I don't, I'm assuming you won't. You're a professional. But say like if
Right.
a carnivore comes up and says, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do you give them an entryway to slowly change what they're doing? How do you change bad habits? There we go.
Yeah. Well, not easy is the short answer, but like the longer answer would be I do everything I can to meet people where they're at. There's plenty of people that don't know I'm vegan, and and big reasons why I'm a vegan. It's kind of interlaced with ideology, and that would be really
Mhm.
unprofessional for me to start pushing an ideology on people. That's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, there's plenty of people that don't even know that I'm vegan. There's like, I'll give you kind of like maybe an extreme example, but I think maybe a good one is there was a patient, this is probably also like 10 years ago. There was a patient that I was counseling and she came to me because she was going through like IVF treatments and fertility. And there's a lot that you can do from a nutrition standpoint for the success rates of that. And she had her husband with her. And her husband was kind of like, as far away from my desk as possible. Just, you could tell he was dragged there, didn't want to be there, just quiet in the corner. And she was, very engaged and in the appointment. And towards the end, as they were leaving, he said to me, "Is it possible that I can make an appointment with you?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And he was like, "Well, I saw another dietitian before, and I drink about 2 liters of soda every day." And she said to me, "Don't come back into my office if you're still drinking 2 liters of soda every day." So what do you think he did? He
Never
didn't come
went back.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't come back. So, I mean, is that like on paper, is the dietitian wrong to say you shouldn't have 2 liters of soda every day? Of course, but like it's not well received by the patient and you
Mhm.
lost him. So like everything, in my opinion, for things to be effective, it has to be very personalized and it has to be
Mhm.
kind of like a joint effort. Like I really try to set the table in the beginning of every conversation or any consultation I have with a patient of like, you have ultimate power of veto at all times. I'm not going to be offended. This is about you. It's most certainly not about me. I have no ego in this.
Mhm.
And make sure that people are really comfortable. And sometimes, like, especially people that have never worked with a dietitian before, they come in a little bit with their guard up, and you can see everybody's shoulders kind of drop a little bit, like a relax,
Mhm.
like, okay, all right, we can have an honest conversation here. And people do get honest. And I'd much rather them tell me, like, I don't think that's going to work for me, rather than them just tell me yes, because that happens sometimes. Like, I think people maybe feel embarrassed. There's a lot of guilt that people hold about the things that they eat, and then it's not going to work for you. It's not going to work. So I'm not in the business to just give people the on paper correct advice. Like, let's make something work.
And you're not going
So
to be with
That's
them
good.
24/7 watching everything that they put in their mouth. People
yeah,
have
no.
parties and celebrations where it's not a typical day of what they're consuming.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, and
absolutely.
the statement about the protein, and yeah, our country is very protein based. You go out of country, and it's interesting when you leave our country how many places have laws against using preservatives and this and that, but and all the fun stuff. Everything has to be fresh, and to me, it just amazes me that U.S. is still doing this. Mind you, I'm a huge, not a huge, but my favorite snack is an M&M peanut.
Mhm.
But I don't buy them in the States. When I go out of country, I make sure I stock up because they have no preservative. It's a different color, it's a different taste. They're really good.
Yeah.
And here you're like, ew, they're so sad. But with
Yeah.
that thing,
No, I've never had
you
a
know,
European peanut M&M.
I've
What do
never
they
had a
say?
European peanut and M&M. Now, next time I go to Europe, I'm gonna make a point of doing
I
that.
know, or even Canada or Mexico. Yeah, it's amazing. You guys are pretty. Anyway, I don't know how close you are to Canada. You're pretty close, closer than I am. Maybe
Like
not.
5 hour drive, maybe, I think.
5 hour
Okay,
drive
okay,
for
yeah.
peanut M&Ms, maybe.
Go to Costco. Hit the Costco up there. It's amazing.
Oh,
Well, no,
okay.
but based on this, I said my sister-in-law's a vegan, and mind you, I had one of the best vegan cheesecakes. One of the best cheesecakes in my life was a vegan cheesecake, believe it or not. But it's
Wow, that
interesting to
does
watch the
surprise me because the
dynamics.
cheese is always a little bit weird.
It's weird. Well, 'cause she's vegan. He's, mind you, on the all meat, all protein diet, and just watching them two, it works. They have make it work, but the expense they have doing it, it's amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just the cost. And now when you look at so when you're doing your work, are you looking at there was the trend where all the vegetables were supposed to be raw. You had the raw thing, then you had the cooked, and is that still a thing? Are people still doing like the raw? We have to eat everything raw because there's more vitamins and minerals, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I'm sure some people are still doing it. It's definitely not trend. I don't see it very often at all. The raw diet is very, very difficult to sustain. There are some vegetables that you actually get more, it's called bioavailability. Like the vitamins and minerals themselves are actually more bioavailable, as in like you can absorb them in higher quantities when they're cooked. Spinach is one of those things.
Hmm.
So, like I feel like almost everybody loses weight on the raw food diet because you're just cutting out a lot of crap in your diet.
Hmm.
But I don't think it does the magic that everybody might think it does, or
I
that
thought also
the
some
food industry is
vegetables
totally
like
run away
you,
with.
oh, sorry.
No, no, no. Sorry, go
Some
ahead.
vegetables you have to eat with fat, I thought.
Um, I don't think so.
I
What
read
would
that
be the
once.
purpose of that?
I don't know, because the fat like carries the
That's
nutrients.
the
I read
Italian
that.
in her saying that right there. Yeah, that's the
Eat
Italian in
olive
her.
oil on that tomato.
There are fat soluble vitamins, definitely, as in like vitamin A, D, E, and K. They're all fat soluble, as in like you do need a little bit of fat in your diet to be able to absorb them, but you don't have to do the hard pairing like that. There's just going to be fat in your diet just because if you're trying to actively dodge every gram of fat in your diet, it's going to be very difficult. There's a little bit of fat in a lot of things. So yeah, I don't think you have to go as far as to do that, but it is delicious for what it's worth. Like if you saute up some vegetables in like an olive oil or something, it's pretty good.
It's
So speaking of olive oil, I'm a big fan of the Mediterranean diet, and for the most part, try to stick with that. Is that's kind of a personal question. Is that a good diet to follow? Would you recommend that, or?
Yeah, yeah. The Mediterranean diet is easily the most researched diet that there is. The only downside to that research is that what people interpret to be the Mediterranean diet seems to be a little bit different. Sometimes it includes dairy, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it includes soy, sometimes it doesn't. So like it's really hard to say that like yes, here's like the one diet that, that has been studied so much when there's a lot of variables. But it is like by just in name, like the Mediterranean diet is more studied than any other diet that there is, and the benefits are definitely there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's a nice balanced one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
isn't diet a bad word? Because there's so many diets and everyone says you can't stand a diet. So it's just, isn't it realistically just a change? I know with my wife, she's in the medical industry as well.
Yeah.
She works at the local hospital here,
That's
and
right.
just she, yeah. And when you say she does all the health things, she just reminds me, hey, go see your doctor. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, with that, it's more like what we've noticed is yes, we are eating better. Yeah, there are more vegetables. I do eat more vegetables than I admit to, at least a couple, but it's more portion size. Realistically, it's portion size and just changing habits of not overeating and being active. And, so you combine everything, layers into everything, which, you start with the dietitian and then you start with this and this and this. So that's what I find works for us. But, thoughts on
Yeah.
that process.
It's all the little things that make the big differences. It always will be when it
Mhm.
comes to nutrition. It's about consistency, not the little one-off situations. It's like, what are you doing on a consistent basis?
Oh yeah,
Um,
I agree.
yeah. And that's going to be a reflection
And
of your health. That's going to be a reflection of weight, if that's a goal, if weight changes are a goal, even like muscle and things like that.
well, I
Gaining
just
on
remember
bone.
20
Yeah.
years ago, we could stay up all night and have a few beverages and sleep our 2 hours and get up and start over and be good to go. Nowadays, that's a weekend event.
So I did notice on your website that you offer corporate wellness. Is that only in New Jersey or is that across the country? Do you do like remote assistance or?
We've done remote. It's largely the people that reached out to us are largely in New Jersey because I've noticed ever since COVID, people are using it as a reason to to kind of like entice people to come into the office. Like, oh, we're gonna have a yoga class today, guys. Everybody should come in or whatever. But yeah, we've done plenty of remote stuff. And we'll like have a password protected, almost like a Google Drive kind of thing, where if you can't make something, then like here's the video for it. We built out a video library for them. We've done that before.
And what kind of topics do you cover?
A little bit of everything, honestly, with the practitioners that we have at Be Well. So all things nutrition is like really easy for us to do. There's always a lot of like stress management things and stuff that the mental health team will do, like work-life balance, things like that. We've set up corporate 5Ks for people. We've done a group acupuncture where the acupuncturist comes in and like gives a little presentation on what acupuncture is and what it can benefit, what it does. And then if you want to, of course it's volunteer only, like maybe she'll like stick a couple needles in your hand just so you can experience it.
Mhm.
We've had the physical therapist come in and do or go into places and do like ergonomic stuff and things of that nature. So when we do corporate wellness, I usually have a whole survey that we send out beforehand because I notice what leadership might think people are interested in and what people really want to participate in, or sometimes two separate things. And we kind of gauge what people are interested in. So like eating healthy on a budget or, meal prepping for the family are always really like lunch and learns, like big lunch and learn topics that are usually pretty popular. Massage day is a pretty popular one.
I would
So
definitely
yeah,
sign up for that one.
we'll do like a health screening day. I'll get a few physician assistants in with me and we'll check like blood pressure, things like that, like cholesterols, things like that.
That would
Um,
start the conversation of, is this something that you want to address further or bring it to your own
yeah,
physician?
that's just
Mhm.
it. So if somebody ends up having like a high blood pressure or something like that, especially if it's something that they didn't know about, we'll be like, you might want to follow up with a physician. Like we're not there to give. It's just a screening event, really, is all it is.
I like the not the meal planning on a budget, although that's also awesome too, but meal planning for working
Mhm.
parents
Yeah.
because it's, typically that like rush home. I mean, we are lucky enough to work remote, so I typically will start dinner like pretty early. Just I feed my kids when they get home from school because they're so hungry and I want them to eat something nutritious. So I just like dinner's on the table at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Which like
Yeah.
whatever, then they can have their snacks later once they get the real food in.
Yeah, why not? No, I think it's fine. I don't think you have to follow the absolute traditional times at all, I think it's a good idea to do it the way you're doing it. I think
And
it
I don't
works.
care if people make fun of me if I start dinner at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
I'll have my lunch and start dinner at the same
if
time.
it works, it works. Yeah.
But for a lot of
Um,
people who are working outside the home, I feel like it is important for them to have some kind of weekly plan because it's not like you get home at 5:30, people are screaming because they're so hungry, you're hungry, and then
yeah.
like what are we having? And then it's a frozen meal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Something quick that's like probably not nearly as nutrient dense as it could be.
Right. With a little pre-planning, you can definitely have much better options.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's another thing where, a little bit goes a long way.
Right.
Absolutely.
Take some time on the weekend if you can, or even like a Friday night, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't mind food shopping on Friday nights. I'm such a loser. Like, yes, I cook dinner at 2 p.m. and I food shop on Friday nights because
I
nobody's there.
I gotta tell you, I food shop on Friday nights too. It's the best time to go. Nobody is there.
You're all by yourself. And then
It's
you have like
really
all of
great.
The people who work there like stop you to like help. They're like, let me show you this fish we just got because they're bored because nobody's there.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I go food shopping at at off hours all the time. I do not, I mean, and I understand this is like not always in the cards for people to be able to do given their schedule, but like I will do everything I can to avoid a grocery store on a Sunday if I can. It's always like that's when everybody wants to do their food shopping and
I
like
don't know
yeah.
why. I feel like that's the worst time to do the food
The
shopping.
worst. It's the worst. Well, I think that's on Sundays is when everybody has their existential crisis about the week coming up. And they're like, I guess I should prepare for this week coming up. You know, nobody wants to think about it on Saturday. But
Maybe that's what
I
it
have
is.
no problem grocery shopping on Friday night. I'm happy to do it. It's
And
the
then the
best.
fridge is full all weekend.
There you
It's
go.
there's
There you
no
go.
downsides.
I'm with you. I agree.
Um, so I have like one more question for the wellness stuff, and then we could jump to term or train unless you have a couple more things, Liz. But I wanted to ask you what can our listeners do today to get closer to their wellness goals?
I would say, and this is cliche, but it's worth mentioning. It really is, and it's worth really taking this to heart is to start small. I think people get stuck in this all or nothing mentality where they are on and they are intermittent fasting and eating boiled chicken and broccoli for lunch and dinner and going to the gym 3 hours a day, or they're off
Mhm.
and they're not doing anything and there's no plan in place. And it'll hinge on like, you know, a French fry wafts by at lunch.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, forget it, I'm going to eat it. And now today is ruined. And the chatter in people's head gets terrible sometimes. Like, why can't I hold it together? What's wrong with me? I don't deserve this, or like whatever it is.
Mhm.
I think people get stuck in that all or nothing mentality, which I find to be the diet and lifestyle change saboteur. It'll just kill it. It'll absolutely kill it. So,
I love that.
so
Like, don't beat yourself up. You had a French fry. It's you got
right,
the
don't
next
beat
meal
yourself
coming.
up. But I think we all kind of, I shouldn't say all, I think most, I'll go as far as say, I think most people walk around with some level of guilt about the things that they eat. And I think that's where that all or nothing mentality it really comes from. It's really stemmed off of that. So sometimes I tell people any guilt that you might have about anything that you eat, you gotta let that go. And I know
Yeah.
that's easier said than done, but it's just absolutely not serving you. That one French fry you had at lunch is not worth the 2,000 calories you had after that because you're feeling bad about it. So, you know, people love to throw the whole effort away. So that getting away from that all or nothing mentality, I would have to be number one, which is almost kind of like a rewiring of your brain, and it's not easy. There are just some people that they walk through life with a very black and white mentality to everything. They're either on or they're off. I'm doing it or I'm not. And like
Mhm.
balance is not easy. So yeah, that's what I would say. Pick like your one goal. That's it. Like I actually said this a couple days ago. I got a similar question. Like if you, for example, if you can get 5 cups of vegetables in a day, as basic and boring as that recommendation is,
Mhm.
you get five. So a cup is about the volume of your fist. I kind of like using your hands to portion things because you always have your hands with you, not the measuring cups as much.
Right.
So 5 cups of vegetables, it could be raw, it could be cooked. This could be a salad where you knock it all out at once or something. That
Mhm.
will change somebody's life. Like just that. Like you have to make room for that 5 cups of vegetables. You're now getting antioxidants and plant sterols and vitamins and minerals you weren't getting before. It's going to change your energy levels. It's going to change your gut microbiome. The snowball effect is massive.
I mean, I love
Um,
the comparison to the fist because then you could really, that's how you eyeball it. I mean, I
yeah,
could do 2 cups of broccoli at dinner, like no problem. That goes right
no
down.
problem. Yeah, I love broccoli. Yeah, boom, right there. Or even when you think like your salad could easily be like, there's your 5 cups right there, and blow
Mhm.
it out of the water. Like nobody ever really had a health problem because they were eating too many vegetables. Like that didn't
Right.
happen.
Oh, I love when people are
So,
like, oh, you got to watch out for grapes. They have so much sugar. And I'm like,
no, it's like grapes were never anybody, or like carrots. People are like, you know what your problem is? You're eating too many carrots. And it's like, yeah, is that
but I
it?
can say everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
Oh my
so
goodness.
yeah, like start small. And again, it's unbelievable how the little things make a big difference.
And then get right back on the wagon. I feel so frequently, like if I'm really being very regimented and conscientious about what I'm eating and exercise and everything, if I get like the flu or something, especially this winter was like so awful, and then you really can't, exercise for a couple of days, it would be detrimental to you. Um,
Totally.
and then it's like so hard to kind of get back into the swing of things. And like instead of thinking it's on or off, I I should really change my my mindset to be like, I've taken a couple of steps back, so now I have to start, closer to the beginning than what I was last time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like if weight loss is a goal, just to kind of put it into perspective, a whole pound of fat by definition is 3,500 calories, right? So, I would, b- when people end up like getting off track or something like that, with being sick, or they end up like they're at a birthday party and they eat like a piece of chocolate cake, they're like, what's wrong with me? Why can't, and then they feel like they're off. And it's like, all right, realistically, let's say that chocolate cake was, I don't know, 800 calories, and that's like steep. That's maybe a high estimation. Um, like it's not 3,500. You might even step on the scale the next day and it's up a tiny bit just because like literally the weight of food in you, probably a little bit more salt, retaining a little bit of water. Like it's not, you didn't
Right.
suddenly gain a pound or two of fat overnight. Everything is meant to be like it's one of the reasons why everybody's weight always fluctuates a tiny bit. Like, and sometimes it's out of your control. So, it's realizing that like life is happening at the same time. It's going to throw you curveballs. Like I've noticed the moment that work gets stressful, that home life gets stressful, the first thing that everybody ditches is their diet efforts. And like that means it's probably something that never really had staying power to begin with. So yeah, it's that all or nothing mentality is very hard to break.
I think for working, because that's where, our podcast is aimed more at HR people and working adults. Um, like that's our target audience. And I feel like it's important for them to hear this because a lot of them will say, I don't have time. I don't have capacity. I don't have time to take care of myself. But it's like, but yeah, but if you don't take the time to do it, first of all, in the immediate sense, you're going to feel yucky. And then long term, you're going to affect your health down the line. Like this is the time you have to carve out a half hour a day, maybe, which is really not that big of a deal.
100%.
And for
Yeah.
employers, it's important to encourage employees to have a good balance of their
Mhm.
wellness and have these programs in place because it decreases absenteeism, it enhances performance, and it keeps medical costs down on insurance. So it's a
Right. It's in their
win-win.
best interest to make sure their employees are healthy, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Like the benefits are really and it's like a kind of a philosophy that applies to a lot of things in life far beyond diet, that like a lot of the change that you want to see is starts within you, right?
Mhm.
Not to get too corny on you, but it's true. It's true. Like any kind of mental change that you want to make, like whatever it is, like it always starts within and it really does have a ripple effect. So yeah, it benefits a lot. It benefits a lot. I'm also, as like a side note, I'm an assemblywoman in New Jersey. And so I
She
talk
does
about like
everything. She's
I
everything.
I talk about like healthcare a lot and everything and as something as simple as somebody like let's say that person that my fake person that I'm talking about of like, go ahead, eat your 5 cups of vegetables a day, that changes their life in a way where their medical expenses are a little bit less, and like that, if more people did that, premiums would be less and hospitalizations would be less and chronic diseases will be less. And it's unbelievable how much of an impact it has.
The
So
snowball effect of
it is a
how
snowball effect. Yeah, it most
I don't
certainly
want to
is.
just put it in dollars and cents, like, oh, you're going to be saving money, but wouldn't you rather spend that on something enjoyable instead of like, I have to do this to live?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a cold reality when you think about it that like we all have to invest, and I understand like affordability is a big conversation in New Jersey right now across the board, and like and people are getting paid less than they ever did, and yes, of course, there's those obstacles, but you can invest in your health now, whether that be a combination of time, money, like whatever it is.
Mhm.
Um, or it's going to be down the line, and down the line it's most likely going to be far less enjoyable
Yeah,
and a lot more
an
expensive.
emergency.
Yeah,
Right.
urgency and a lot more expensive. So, it's something that like I said, life is happening at the same time, and you have to
Mhm.
like honestly like rank things in order of what you're going to prioritize, and it can shift around as as life evolves and everything, but like health should really be something. If you don't have health, you don't really have much else,
You don't have, I
you
mean,
know?
because a lot of people, I mean, now I'm getting to the age where people are starting to talk about and think about retirement. But also like if you want to enjoy your retirement years, whether that's travel or help take care of your grandchildren or whatever, like a wonderful golden years looks like to you, If you don't have your health during that time, you're not going to be doing any of those things that you worked all these years to get, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's 100% true. You're not going to be able to enjoy retirement likely in the way that you're envisioning,
Right. Because you're not going to
or
feel as
hoping
well as you
for.
do today. Yeah.
Even something as simple as walking. It's like if walking is something that you don't consistently do, it's like an ability that we're all going to lose at some point, you know?
Tell her, Liz, tell her about your walking.
Every morning, 5 a.m., we do a 30-minute walk in
That's
a
great.
group in my neighborhood. We've been doing it for about 3 years now. It's been fabulous, huge benefits and lots of noticeable changes after we started walking.
That's a really great example of like, and I'm not saying that's a little thing because that's a fabulous, amazing, bigger thing, I think. But like committing to, like, let's say if nothing else, you commit to 30 minutes a day of walking, there's a socialization to it. You get to know all your neighbors really well. Like it's probably something that makes the morning better and then rolls into making the day better. And it's just, and it has the health benefits. Like that's an example of how those little things accumulate to really make big differences.
If it
That's
wasn't
great.
5 a.m., I might do it. I mean, well, I don't live in her neighborhood, but
It would be quite the
Yeah.
drive for you.
every morning I'd have to fly in. But so my friends and well, she's in Texas and it's hot there. So that was one of the 5 a.m. reasons.
Hmm.
But my friends who I do walk with, at any time really, except for the winter because it's too cold, we just started this week. It's gonna finally warm up this week. So we've been texting like, which day can you go? So we try to go probably twice a week, but we'll do like an hour and a half, just twice, just a real long one.
That's great.
I mean, it's if however you can get it in, and you feel like you don't even the time passes so quickly because actually this is ridiculous. I shouldn't even admit it. We make up lists of things that we want to discuss so we don't talk all throughout the week, and then we're like, okay, this is my list of things as it's
And
on
you
here.
save it all for, yeah, that sounds great.
It's fun. We enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
however you have to make it enjoyable for yourself, or you're not going to do it, and you're not going to look forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So with the few minutes left, we're going to do our term or train. So it's very much like a Dear HR question, and I didn't have a lot of time to look at this one, so I'm going to read it exactly as it came in. Um, at this company, there is a very high-performing employee who consistently exceeds sales goals. The clients love her. She brings significant revenue. She has a great personality. However, she regularly wears clothing to client meetings that I would describe as revealing and not aligned with our professional image. Nothing explicitly violates our dress code rules, but it makes me uncomfortable. And I've noticed a few clients seem distracted during meetings. So even though she is our top performer, and I don't want to come across as policing her appearance, I really worry about, first of all, claims of unfair treatment due to her gender, and also that this image is reflecting upon the company. We haven't had any complaints. Um, is this something that can be fixed, or is it time to cut our losses?
That
So,
sounds more like
well,
an internal issue for that individual if it's not against company policy.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I think too. If she's not actually breaking a company policy, I don't think there's grounds to say anything.
I don't even recommend training because it's not that employee. She's following policy.
Right.
Because she's not breaking the dress code policy. I would love to know what exactly,
The
and then
dress
I
code
hate to get
policy
into
is.
that. What's that?
Well, like what the dress code policy is.
Right. And
Hmm.
you do kind of like, are the skirts too short? Because I'm not going to go around with a ruler and be like, no, your skirt has to. You remember when you were a kid and it had to be like however many inches past your fingertips or whatever? Like, are we doing that in 2026? Is that,
I don't know. It becomes real, like if you don't have a solid and very specific, which I guess it kind of gets kind of weird when you think about it, like dress code policy, it's left up to interpretation. And then you can embarrass somebody. The moment you embarrass them, it's like all bets are off. People get upset and mad. And I don't know.
the risk of talking to the employee might make them feel disenfranchised to the whole organization. They'll be like, fine, I'll go
Totally.
somewhere else where I can be who I am. Clearly, individualization and expression is important to this person. So,
Yeah.
like, do you want to lose one of your best people because, I don't know, you don't
And
like her top?
they
Yeah.
may even face gender discrimination if they're talking to an employee about their clothing and it's not violating a policy, but they're not doing it to other people. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a risky move. And yeah, I don't think this is train or terminate. I think the individual needs to look inside themselves and evaluate, why does this bother me?
Mm,
Train the
great.
manager. I also always consider when dress code questions come up, I always think to myself, because they're almost always questioned about a woman, I say, well, would you say the same thing to a man? Would this be an issue for a man? So then if
Exactly.
it's like, no, you would never say that to a man or someone who has, dresses in a masculine manner. Then it's like, okay, well, this is gender discrimination. Although they didn't give examples, that's just usually one of my barometers for dress code discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we should say train the manager, right? We're going to be,
Mhm.
excuse me, person who asked the question, you're the one who needs training, okay? This has been so fun. Thank you so much, Marissa, for joining us.
Of
We
course.
were
Marissa, thank you.
thrilled to chat
Yeah,
with
thanks
you.
for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been
Dean
very
sent us a
educational.
Dean. Yeah, right. She's a wealth of knowledge. Dean sent a message after he dropped and he said, I'm so sad I had to leave, crying face.
Ah, that's a shame.
Maybe we
Well,
can have you back at
it was
another
fun
time.
having him on while he was here.
But thank you so much. And I wish you
Great.
well. Maybe I'll come by, be well, and hang out with you for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me know if you're going to come by. It'd be good to meet you in
Okay.
person.
And of course, our clients, if they want to reach out about corporate wellness, we will include a little note, on our stuff with your websites, and that is Marisa Sweeney at Be Well, Integrative Health Services.
Yes.
Remember, we are HR Service Unscripted, right? We're on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and a subscribe.